City of Stevens Point Parks Commission meeting, recorded October 5, 2022.
Good evening, everybody. It is 6:30. I'd love to call the October 5th, 2022 Board of Park Commissioner meeting to order. Dan, would you mind calling a roll, please?
Freckman. Here. Gladusky. Here. Hall.
Here.
Alder Kiemer.
Here.
McDonald.
Here.
O'Connick. Here. Shabilsky.
Here.
Alder Short.
Here.
Sorensen.
Here.
Wynn.
Here.
And Alder Zarzua is excused. So we have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Moving on to agenda item number 2, which is approval of the August 3, 2022 meeting minutes.
I move approval.
Liz? Motion. Is there a second?
Alder Kiemer, I'll second.
Alder Kiemer. Is there any discussion, edits, or changes that need to be made? All right, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much, everybody. Agenda item number 3, the 2022 Donald Copps Municipal Pool Season Review Presentation. Ann?
Good evening. Okay, so I just have some numbers to start us off. It was a great summer at the pool. We had our best year of membership sales, slightly up from 2021. As you can see, 16 individual memberships. We don't have a lot of these, and I'm not sure why, but the individuals that do buy this one mostly come to our morning and lunch lap swims, and out of those folks, I think a lot of them prefer to just pay as they go. But we do have quite a few families that invest in the memberships, so that's nice to see. And I went and tallied up all of our admissions. So we have many different admission types. And as you can see, this is probably not all of them, and there's probably underrepresented, I would say. But all in all, over 11,000 daily admission passes to the pool in various forms. So I thought that was a pretty cool number to see. We do have our new pricing model that we implemented last year. So we have a charge for resident and then a slightly more charge for non-resident. And it's pretty much on your honor. I don't make my seasonals card people and look at their, ID or anything. So some people are admitting that they're non-residents. And then we have some user groups that are kind of like a bulk accounts that come in. UCLCC, if you're not familiar, the University Early Childhood Learning Center, they come with some little ones. And then our Pacelli Summer Blast group has a sizable amount of kids that come through. And the largest one, the Boys and Girls Club right across the parking lot, sends over 1,000 kids our way each summer. So that was pretty cool to see. We increased our private parties. The pool is rentable in the evenings, and so we had 17 parties ranging from 30 to 50 people per party. And I think that is going to grow next year because of the ease in which you can reserve the pool online. Word's getting out, and I think those will fill up pretty quickly. We had 3 tube and toy nights where we gave away those noodles. If you remember, we got that sizable donation of noodles from Operation Bootstrap, so that was a hit. Lots of broken pieces off of those noodles because they had a squirt gun feature. A little extra cleanup for staff, but still in good fun. For the budget, we're doing really well. You can see the 3-year trend where we've made more money each year, so that's encouraging. And our budget did increase in expenses due to staff costs with the raise in wages, but we're doing well, so you can see that. Free swims, the donations that come in from area businesses, as well as a couple from our own department. We had 9 of those throughout the season, which were really well attended, and people definitely look for those. We're still renting the pool to Dive Point Scuba. They, I think, host 3 different sessions of scuba classes at the pool where they pay us a cut of their student fees. So it's a nice relationship for downtime at the pool where we can make some money. And Bob is a certified lifeguard, so we don't have to staff it because he has the credentials to be there at the pool with his class. so that's nice. 9 near drowning reports filed with the state. And all in all, that's a really great low number. Most of these, kids get in over their head right where the deep water starts to slope, and our guards are aware those are trouble spots, and so pulled out 9 kids where we had to file that with the state. Staffing levels were great. We started off the year really strong. We lost a few along the way, which kind of put the pinch on, some days when people needed off or whatever, we might have had to close the slide for half the afternoon because we didn't have the staffing levels to have the pool open as well as guard the main pool. Or excuse me, the slide open as well as the main pool. So next year I think we'll try to hire even more with anticipation that we might lose a few on the way, or just to be fully staffed throughout the remainder of the summer. This year we did 3 continuing education events with staff where we reviewed our emergency action plan and did drills of different sorts, and just got together as a staff to build that camaraderie, and those were really well received, so we'll be doing that again for sure. At the end of the summer, we had our replaster project, so that was a capital improvement project where all 3 wells were replastered, and they also repaired the edge of the gutter where it was cracking and the cement was failing. So that project took a little over 2 weeks, a large crew on site from Badger Swim Pools, and so it looks really good, bright and shiny, good to go for another 10 years or so. Looking ahead to next year, we hope to have better internet connection. We did have some challenges because we're running off of a Wi-Fi from the police department on the outside of the building, and since we're all computer-based for our admissions and our concessions, that would cut in and out and cause havoc with staff. So hopefully having that hardwired will alleviate all those problems. We got many requests to have more events and free swims, so we'll do what we can to increase our different event and theme nights and our free swims. Hopefully we get all of our donors back, plus some. And then capital improvement projects for 2023, we have guardhouse upgrades up for review, so we'll find out about that in a few weeks here. Any questions about the pool?
I'm going to step in just for a second and call attention back to a pretty key point. So Ann modestly breezed over the budget a little bit, but one thing I want to let everyone know as kind of a reference is this is Ann's first year managing the pool. If you recall, we had changeover in staff since last year. In addition, Ann's team has a brand new maintenance person. Ron Otto from within our department transferred from the Parks Division over. So 2 out of the 3 full-time faces were brand new for year 1. We additionally increased our minimum wage, if you recall, from about $11 up to $14.25. So if you look at 2019's actual expense, you'll see we were around $144,000. And if you look at 2022 with an increase in wages, just from the proper management, the 3 full-time staff team at Ann's direction, really buying in with the staff, that total expense was $125. So you'll see not only we had additional labor costs, but I think the way that Ann and Greg and Ron dialed in the schedule, we increased revenue. If you look at that actual revenue, we crushed 2019's numbers by $20,000. 2021 years, it's over $12,000. I guess I just want to call attention to the fact that the pool ran the best I believe it's probably ever run this year, underneath brand new leadership, Ann's great leadership, as well as Greg, who kind of led the charge as the historical knowledge, being involved with it for several years, and then Ron's buying into kind of learning as much as he can. So, I think the pool's going to continue to do great things. Obviously, pools are always expensive, which is a challenge, but they really did a great job with that, and it made my job easy. Knowing the pool was open, and lifeguard challenges isn't even the right word. When we go to our state conferences and we talk with other communities, staffing is difficult everywhere. It's even harder for lifeguards because they not only have to apply for the job, they have to become certified, they have to be in the pool. There's a lot of licensures risk. It's not the easiest job. So kudos to Ann and her team for everything that they've done. And I just want to really highlight that portion to see it was really well from a financial and business end, in addition to the community aspect of over 11,000 attendees that attended it. So great job, Ann, to you and your team.
Good.
Yeah. So,
Any
Ann,
questions?
I have a question, Ann, about the family package. Do you guys track when somebody buys a family pass, how many people are actually using that pass inside? And you said that's a bit of an increase. And is there an increase both in the number of family passes and the number of family members accessing the pool through that pass?
I haven't calculated the number of users per, in total. The amount of admissions is up for those, but I did find a document from Tom Schrader's day where they kind of did the math, where they landed in the middle, took averages of, if you have a family of 12 versus a family of 3 and everybody, whatever. So for the most part, we're doing just fine, and most people aren't actually redeeming the value of their membership. It's kind of like the gift cards, you sell more than you have to redeem. But I think for the ease, we have a scanning system now. People come in and they just boop, and they're in. So it improves the line, and it's got a lot of pluses.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions for Ann? Congratulations on a great year.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 4. I have to read it, but I have to unlock my phone first. All right, so the number 4, agreement with Northward Adventures for concession and skate rental sales during the winter sports season in Gurkey.
Okay, so this item, if you recall, we've had a multi-year agreement with Northward Pedal and Paddle with Patrick Gatterman, who is the former owner of that business. That's been really positive. And we were notified, or I was notified a couple months ago, that there was a possible business deal in the works where that could change ownership. And Ben Martinez, who is with us tonight, and I'm sure he'll say a few words, has been tremendously great at communicating with us so far. And ultimately, they landed in a position where the ownership is changing. So with the change of ownership, the lease agreements that we had, our city attorneys reviewed it. Iverson Park was a clean transfer. That's going to continue in a very similar capacity, almost the same as what it was before. We did not have a current agreement for the winter sports at Gurkey Park. We tried that on a kind of a trial basis last year. It went well. So Ben and I and Scott sat down and kind of went through the particulars for this winter. And what's on the agenda is really an extension of what we did last year for a 2-year agreement. So we welcome Ben. Ben's been great so far. We wish him a lot of luck. We kind of sat down and tried to answer as many questions as we could. You'll see the winter sports area, as long as we have snow and cold, which I think hopefully we will, run very similarly. So Ben's here if there's questions or if he wants to say hello. And staff is recommending that we would move forward with that agreement as written.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions at all, or no? Otherwise, I'll just introduce myself.
Actually, Ben, why don't you go up to the podium and introduce yourself and your company, and then we'll open it up for any questions.
Okay, absolutely. So I'm Ben Martinez, and so as just was stated, I did just purchase Northward 2 weeks ago, give or take a little bit. Our plan kind of going forward is we're really excited me and my family, I should say, are really excited. We're looking to move to the Stevens Point area, and we're excited to be moving this way hopefully by next summer. I've always been an outdoor enthusiast, so I'm really excited to have the opportunity to kind of move into the outdoor space, and I'm looking forward to kind of working with the city of Stevens Point and kind of expanding on what Northward has already accomplished here, and hopefully offering more services to the public in the seasons to come, especially over at Iverson Park and the nature of opening up the beach house finally and having some concessions and some services for the people that are rental options and stuff for people that are hanging out at the beach there. And we look forward obviously to this winter season and seeing how it goes over at Gurkey. I'm kind of excited to kind of be a part of the family atmosphere of the ice skating community here in Stevens Point, so kind of excited.
Alder Shore.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I keep a little list because I'm always glad to hear about local businesses when someone is ready to move on, somebody purchasing it.
Sure.
And those are great stories about kind of keeping things going in the community.
Appreciate that.
Other questions for Ben? Mike?
Well, I'd move we approve the agreement.
Motion from
Oh, yeah, that.
Commissioner Glodowski.
There's that as well.
I'd second that motion.
Second, Carrie Wynn. So any questions, comments, or discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the agreement with Northward Adventures for the concession and skate rental during the winter sports season at Gurkey signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Good luck, Ben.
All right, I thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for coming, Ben. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 5, the agreement with Valley View Forestry LLC for timber sales for Yoga Park and West River Park.
Okay, so you'll probably recall, we talked about this, I believe, in a director's report, or maybe it was a forestry review last year, that we were planning to, it was planned for that there'd be some thinning that we were looking into doing in Yoga Park, as well as on both sides of Double H by West River Park. So what we did at this point was we wanted to work with somebody that specializes in it, that can kind of help guide us through that process. So we reached out to Portage County Forester and just said, hey, what do you know of it, countywide? And we were able to get the contact information for Ken Price of Valley View Forestry. So what Ken's organization does, or his business does, is essentially, he manages that timber sale from start to finish. So we would start with, especially in Yoga Park, going over any of the pine stand that we want to keep for the disc golf course, because there is some that interact with that, but still trying to do the thinning in an appropriate way that we can help the tree stand and make sure that the red pines can continue to grow the way we want them to. Todd can speak definitely much more to the health of the trees than I can, but that was kind of the intent when we started to have the conversation. So as we get into more specifics with Ken, with Ken's business model, essentially, he was able to kind of lay out what the financial aspect of how it works. So what Ken really does is, after we would kind of go through, we'd mark everything, make sure the ones that we want to save, we'd be able to be saved, is he would then go ahead and solicit ultimately to get the timber contractor that would be doing the actual harvest and the purchase and the sale of it. What the estimates that we're receiving is his services would be $6 per cord. In addition, what we would believe we would receive is for pine bolts, it would be $40 to $50 per cord, and then for pulp, it'd be somewhere between $15 and $25. We anticipate, based on what we've seen in some of the walking Todd and I have done so far, that this could be around $15,000 or potentially more dollars if we do this. And in the packet, you probably saw the actual photo of the areas that we were targeting. So based on Ken's experience and what we've seen, this model being used in other places, talked it over with Todd extensively, we feel pretty confident that this is the best method to do it. So what we're recommending is that we would enter into this contract with Valley View Forestry, and then that process would go underway. Todd would be alongside the process the entire way to make sure that it follows within the best interest of the city, and that we do it in a manageable way, an appropriate way for the tree stand and for the red pine. And then those funds, when it would be done, would go into a reserve account for the forestry. So Todd, I don't think I missed much, but if there's anything else you want to add, but obviously happy to answer any questions on the particulars of the contract, but that is recommended approval by staff here tonight.
The one thing I'd add is we've been talking to Randy Shukar with the disc golf people, because they put so much time and effort out there. I just wanted to add that I called Randy Shukar. He's kind of the lead guy with the disc golf out there at Yoga, and they put a lot of their own time and effort and money into it, so they're aware of it. After things get marked, we'll walk it to see if there's a certain tree that makes the hole and all that other stuff beforehand, and they're well aware of not driving over the tees and leaving debris all over the place. So I just want to make sure that everybody knew that.
So,
Yep.
so it is selective. It's selective cutting. It's not clear cutting.
No, it's not clear. It's a thinning.
And
Yep.
do you mark the trees, or who's marking
No,
the
that
trees?
just Ken Price. That he's a traditional forester. He'd be a lot more. That's his realm.
Oh, okay.
So, years ago we had Steve Gress that was doing the management of the land. He's since retired, and it kind of got put off, and it got put off, and it got put off, and so now it's probably time to do it.
In addition to the marking that he would do, it would still be ultimately city authority, though, if we said, no, that's not going to go, or something like that. So,
Do you introduce other species of trees in there then, or is it just going to be a red pine stand?
For the most part, it'd be red pine. There's one section of Scotch pine. It's a very small little pocket. They were going to take that out, and Bob would know it'll probably transition over to, but that would be about the closest thing that would be taken, where it'd be cut out.
Okay, what is the plan for after this cut?
I'm not going to worry about it. No, I'm just because I won't be here. But no, I think I would take his advice on it, I guess, because I think Steve I'd have to, it all goes to by density, right? So I guess once it gets to the density of, as the tree gets bigger and bigger, I'm sure it'll be thinned again another time, but I don't know how far down the line it would be. I can ask Ken what traditionally that would be, but it's not looking to, we're not managing it, I guess, to harvest all of it. I would guess that we're kind of keeping it so it can, they can be large, big trees. It's not so much to
Yeah, in other words,
maximize
the
it.
long-range plan is
Yeah.
continue with red pine.
Yep, that's how I look at it as. I had a thought, now it just left me. Because I'm looking at more towards the woods than money, I guess. And there's been some pockets of decline going on within that stand and over on HH. And from what I understand, if you don't get that under control, it can keep going through the stand. So it's at such a point at some of it that the density is too much, where we need to thin some of it out for the health of for the trees. So as far as when the next cut would be, I'm not sure. I think there'll probably be at least one more in there to get to get the big trees. That's how I envision it. Maybe that'll change as time goes on. Go ahead.
Yeah, what percentage of it ends up as pulp, and what can be used in?
The way it sounds, the way he was talking, that the majority of it would be bolts. There's some pulp in there, because like I said, the density in some areas, they're smaller, some smaller trees and stuff. We're also going to get rid of some oak wilt in there, but I think most of it will be the bolts, the bigger trees. And I'm not sure where the cutoff for a bolt to pulp is. I'm not quite sure on that either. That's why we hired somebody else. What, Ginger?
2 questions. When was the last time this Parks Department did a timber sale? And then the second part is, how did Ken Price give an estimate, like how long the actual cutting would take place?
Yep, okay, the last time we did it, let's see, it was before the Whitetail subdivision was developed even, because we went through there, let's see, so when was that developed?
I think 2004 was it, around that 2000, 2004 range.
So it probably would have been about and Kim Helverson was still here, so, because it was under their management at the time, the water department. So I'm guessing 2003 maybe was the last time. It was somewhere around that time. And what was the other question, Alder?
Did Ken Price give an estimate how long the actual cutting process might take? Like once they mark all the trees and?
From what he was saying, that he didn't think it would be a smaller job in the whole scheme of things, and he didn't give me a time frame with it. We were going to do it in an off season. We weren't going to do it during the summer, obviously, when it's being used. I said it has to be, I think it was November 1st to March 1st, I think, is when we gave it to him.
Okay.
Is what we were looking. So I'm hoping they can get it. He has a 2-year time window to get it done, to find somebody and to get it done, but I don't think it should take all that long.
And we've kind of already started conversations being sensitive in the neighborhood, obviously, around holidays, deer hunting, things like that. Not that the hunting part affects the city itself, but the neighboring areas.
Maybe not November 1st.
Yeah, exactly. And we did get an estimate, I don't know if you saw this today or not, but they said around the 30-ish acres, approximately 10 cord per acre is what he would guesstimate. That came through this afternoon. So.
And then also with that, I called the county forester up too and shared the information because I had nothing to compare it to. He said everything seemed in line, so I'm going to take his word on that.
Todd, did you have any conversations with Ken about, and sometimes in major logging operations, they have to cut roads in and pass to get in. Will there be any need to alter any access points to get in and harvest the timber effectively? Just thinking about potential damage?
Not with the fairways or anything, and then I also brought up, I think in there it was stipulated with the Green Circle Trail, they would have to put signage up, give the Parks Department prior notice with that, and we would, like Dan was saying, we would end up communicating with the neighbors, the neighborhood, and just the general public, when that's all taking place.
Great.
And the good news too is in the Whitetail subdivision, it actually abuts the roadway.
Okay.
So they're not having to cut through, say, hardwoods or something to get back into it. So access, and some of that tree stand is actually, I don't know if it was planted in rows at one time,
Yeah,
but some of it's width that hopefully they'll be able to get down pretty easily when they're doing their select cutting.
Yep. So that shouldn't be an issue at all.
So any other questions for Todd? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion on the proposal.
I'll move to approve.
Donald, is there a second?
I'll second.
Sue Hall? All right.
Got it.
All those in favor of accepting the agreement with Valley View Forestry for timber sales in Yoga Park and West River Park signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Todd, thank you for your work on this. Moving on to agenda item number 6, the ordinance amendment for Chapter 11 Forestry Ordinance updates.
So this one is tied to a successful grant application that Todd had written, that the Forestry Department had written for the 2022 Urban Forestry Grant. So ordinance revisions are always, what's the right word? Lengthy. Probably difficult to bring to life, essentially. But there's 2 copies or versions inside your actual packet. There's a red line version, so you can kind of see. There's quite a bit of language cleanup, title changes, punctuation, things of that nature. There's some key sections related to things like plant areas where the tree bank's not big enough and what options the city forester has for planting, on public property or immediately adjacent private property if necessary. So long story short, and Todd can give you specifics, but our forestry ordinance is actually on the Wisconsin DNR's website as a model ordinance. To Todd and his team's credit for the years of work on that, this is actually cleaning it up even more. So we anticipate this revision to be much more up to date with the terms and how things are operating within the city, as well as kind of the industry standards and around our forestry canopy, but also this will likely trickle out into some other communities in time because they've been using what we've had now too. So Todd gets the credit on this. He met with the city attorney to really get it rolling. By the time I got involved with the process, we were just getting to the finer intent details and doing some more of the reviews. So there's quite a bit here. We can answer any questions that come up. And Todd, if I miss anything, feel free to come up and feel free to add as well.
It was mainly updating some standards that we had in there. I think there was some scientific names we had to change. The biggest changes were there was some changes in the law as to when the forestry department could enter upon private property, like in backyards and stuff, and that's gone back and forth. So I think we streamlined that. That was cleared up with the language. And the other thing was, like Dan had said, the big thing was with if there wasn't room in the right-of-way, I'm hoping that maybe it would streamline things to make it easier. So if the abutting property owner was agreeable to us planting on private property, that we could do so. Because there's a lot of areas in town that potentially, once we fill up, where the boulevard is large enough, that maybe we could tackle some of those and it wouldn't be so cumbersome to do that.
If I could.
Oh, sure.
Thanks. Well, first I'll make a motion to approve for the purpose of discussion. Second?
Is there a second?
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
And then, I do have a few questions. So I think I understood most of the changes related to the easement. That's an easement for the planting. It's not an easement for the slicing off the private property and shifting it to the right-of-way.
Yeah, no, hopefully that's right. I didn't want to do that because then that gets cumbersome.
I got that. But then there's all this stuff about construction that I'm not sure I did follow, and particularly, of course, it caught my attention about the council's authority, something to do with parks and public works. What was that?
Let's see how it is now. Let's say, and it hasn't happened yet. Let's say if there was a construction project where if the city forester didn't agree with what was going to happen with the construction project, obviously that the city forester would then go to the park director, and the council would now be able to make the final decision if the 2 parties couldn't agree on it. Before, how it was is if the city forester and another public works director didn't agree on something, it was a public works commission, or what is it?
The Board of Public Works.
But yeah, they would make the decision, and it didn't seem like that would be a very unbiased way as how we discussed it. I think that'd be this.
And mostly that's kind of procedural, I think, from probably years past, compared to more how the boards and, where the forester reports to the park commission / council versus before, going back many years, at one time maybe this board wasn't as active, or the public works department and forestry division worked in a different alignment. So the way we're set up now where the departments are separately, it's kind of just procedural more than anything.
And it hasn't happened. Like when Logan and I were reading it over, we both we read it out loud to each other, thought, well, that doesn't really seem fair, you know?
And the other unique thing that's really great, to Todd's credit and the Public Works Department's credit, is there's a really great communication line of construction projects. So Tuesdays, I think, is when the meetings happen, where basically everything that's being constructed and where the road projects are, that Todd's able to be on the conversations and know kind of how that's happening. So Todd does a lot of work kind of on the front end, looking at trees, inspecting trees as they're kind of making decisions on some that can go or can't go or where things are going to be planted. So that's been a really great communication piece that Todd's involved with directly. So this probably is a really rarity if something like that happens. So
Thanks.
Any other discussion?
the only other thing I guess I'll add is just as an FYI, that grant process, because of the way Todd had written that grant, the city labor, Todd's time essentially is grant reimbursable. So all of the time that went into this, which normally would just be, city time essentially, right? That was part of the grant. So kudos to Todd for his grant that he was awarded, and that'll be part of our reimbursement that goes for the 2022 grant. So great job on that too.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the Chapter 11 Forestry Ordinance updates as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thanks, everybody. Agenda item number 7, resolution authorizing the Forestry Department to apply for 2023 Department of Natural Resources Urban Forestry Grant.
Okay, so Todd, it's your show tonight here a little bit, but to build off the 2022 grant success, Todd has been a really great job planning out here the next several years, and he's really working on that plan based off of a former management plan. So Todd is looking for authorization, our department's looking for authorization to move forward with another grant application for 2023. So looking for the maximum allowable for that again, to basically take the next steps following some of the GIS inventory, what's come out of Emerald Ash Borer, and trying to, again, capture some of that state funding that is available. So what this is by procedurally, this is just a requirement to get authorization to submit the application. This would also move on to Finance Committee to make sure that part is allowable. And then that grant is basically written at this point, so they'll be submitting that, trying to be successful.
So moved.
All right. Got a motion by Alder Shore. Is there a second?
Right here.
Second by Gladowski. Is there any discussion, any further discussion about the request? All right, all those in favor of approving to move forward with the Forestry Department to apply for a 2023 Department of Natural Resources Urban Forestry Grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, everybody. Agenda item number 8, rejection of the bid for the KB Willett Ice Arena Building Addition. Todd.
Okay, so to recap the memo, essentially we received one bid last Wednesday for our bid opening for the KB Willett project. And so after we got the bid, we looked at it. We also then received notification that a second bidder was in the queue, actually had everything queued up to try to submit a bid, but then the system, they had a technology issue. So we believed we were going to be getting two, but one was officially basically submitted that was acceptable, is the best way to phrase it. So we reviewed that bid, and based on where the fundraising is at and the plan we presented, the bid that's here is about $500,000 to $750,000 over what the budget allows. In addition, at this magnitude, as you can imagine, it's difficult to try to consider awarding something to not be able to compare it to a second number. We did have 5 plan holders, general contractors, that pulled plans. There was, several questions that were asked along the way. So what we're looking to do, or what the project team after evaluating thought, was that obviously it's a tough time to build things right now. Lumber prices and a lot of the construction lead times are very high and long, and it's just tough for them to forecast things. They're having to carry allowances, is what we're being told, to predict as best they can what they can't predict. What HVAC systems are going to cost, what things are going to go up and not go up. So what the project team would like to do here is reject the loan bid and just continue conversations with the contractors that have provided information, that have asked questions, to change some of the scope slightly, dial back some of the things within the design that is maybe optional or that were wish list items, to trim some cost, as well as open up some of the lead times. So rather than putting a hard deadline for completion of, say, what we originally were intended was football season of next year, allowing the flexibility in the documents to say, complete this as soon as lead times allow, with the understanding that they would keep working on that schedule as things come available. We believe that will open the net a little farther for some more bidding competition, and we think if we time that right and open this up again here later this year with some of those changes, we could save potentially, hundreds of thousands, not just the thousands, right? That's our goal. Now, obviously, there's a risk with that. It could certainly go up, but based on the budget numbers, the fundraise numbers, and the way the project comes together, this really is the best move because we don't have the money based on this bid number to award the base bid even at that point. So what we're looking to do here is we're just recommending that we would reject this bid, change some of that, look for some value engineering within the actual design documents, and then rebid this later to be considered later this year.
Questions for Director Kramer? Before we move forward with any sort of action, Dan, just to clarify, this is not scaling back the plan at all, correct?
Yeah, correct. So I should highlight the actual components, right, that are left is the actual 2,900 square foot team room addition. In addition, there was the recladding of the facility, and then there was the entrance archways. That's really the primary items. The base bid was structured to have the team room addition added on, the unfinished basement below it, the vestibule on the east side, the recladding of the steel around the exterior of the building, the roof screen, and then the build-out of the ADA accessible women's hockey locker room. That base bid, the actual components, would stay. But for example, if we can scale back on some of the maybe finished plumbings in the basement to just be stubbed plumbing, if we can go into the women's locker room and work on salvaging some of the rubber floor that's there and then letting the university potentially do some of those changes later. On the recladding, we learned that there might be another material that could potentially be considered that might save some cost. That's what we're looking at doing primarily. Additionally, the base bid called out some of site improvements. So there's fiber optic line that runs right through the middle of the project that feeds actually this building, and the PD needs fiber, as you can imagine, to run their computers. So we're working with the utilities department. They're going to run some connections off of Michigan, and that will allow the contractor to potentially do some different things with the fiber that might save some costs on the project. We're also talking about, rather than brand new concrete on the entire plaza out in front of the Willet, which was in the base bid, scaling it back to the project limits, so just what we're cutting to put the new fiber in or the new water lines in. So it might not look as perfect year one as what we hoped for the whole area, but it would still do everything that our agreement stated, still look very nice, and some of the want items would just become more needs-based. So, and again, if the budget would allow some more things to be put back in, we certainly could revisit that, but those are some of the things that we're going to scale back. There was also some new fencing that was looked at being put in around the track on the north side because it would have looked nice with the new team room. Again, not necessary to play football or not necessary to do the team edition. It would look great, but we realize now, obviously, based on costs and things, that's just not something that's probably going to be fit in the budget. So those are some of the modifications, but still honoring everything we have to do for additions.
All right, other questions? Entertain a motion, Liz?
I'll make a motion that we reject the bid.
Okay, we got a motion by McDonald. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Shabilsky. All right, all those in favor of rejecting the bid for the KB Willett Ice Arena Building Edition signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to item number 9, Director Kramer.
Okay, we have some really great news to talk about this month, and one of them actually we just were notified, so I'm actually going to lead off with something not listed here, but actually Steve McKay, who's a member of our Parks Department, came to my office probably 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago, and said, hey, I've been talking with a community member, Trevor Rourke, and there's been a lot of interest in bike parking down along the Bandshell area, and basically said, how could he help, how could he be involved? And Steve actually, with Trevor's assistance, worked through the whole process of completing an application through the Community Foundation, and the city was awarded just over $4,000 to actually put in that bike parking for the Bandshell. So kudos to Steve and his efforts in coordinating between, outside of doing his regular duties, he took on that grant writing application process with Trevor's assistance and was able to award that to the city. So great news on that front. We'll be looking to add basically a bike repair station and a few bike actual hitches for bike parking in the area of the Playground Central Company, so it can service basically everything around it. So the Bandshell area, as well as Riverfront Rendezvous, that corridor. With that said, as you can imagine, when Levitt happens and things happen, there's you can never have enough. So we'll have to, this is a start, but it's a great start, and kudos to Steve and Trevor and the team for getting that together. So you'll see that happening between now and likely spring or something like that, depending upon how our fall shapes up. In addition, we were successful in the Transportation Alternatives Program grant. I'm sure most of you probably saw, but we were I think we were the third largest award here for this cycle. So the grant in total is $1.47 million to go towards the Plover River Crossing project. The actual grant application was almost for 1.7, so there's a local match. I'm happy to report we've met with the Friends of the Plover River Crossing. They've already got the local match pledged, and they're well on their way to doing some additional pledges, or they're hoping to, for longer term improvements or maintenance, things of that nature. That'll likely have some components that'll be at next month's agenda related to things like naming rights and some of the things that were presented in the past. So that project, for a timeline, is going to be, we'll be finishing the agreement this fall into the winter, and then we're hoping to be able to break ground in a year. That would be the goal, year and a half. We're on that 24 cycle for the DOT. They're on a fiscal year, not the calendar year, so our years are different. So it's 24, but it could potentially happen sooner for us because of their fiscal year being different. So there'll be a lot more coming on that. Next month will be the first to kind of talk about some of the naming pieces of it. In addition, there's a really great event down at the Sculpture Park. I think everyone should have received an email invite to this for October 15th. Originally, this would have happened the same weekend in September as like Art in the Park and everything else that was going on. There was a lot of rain in the forecast early in the week, so the volunteer committee decided to postpone it. Then we had a beautiful Saturday. That's how that goes. But because of all the electrical components, they didn't want to take the risk of having anything electrical, be ruined. So if you have opportunity on the 15th, please come down. Last year it was packed. It was a great event, and this year they tend to illuminate even more sculptures. So free event for the community. We couldn't put an exact count on it last year, but it had to have been, well over 1,000 people that were trying to walk through there, and probably even more than that. So if you get an opportunity, please come down. Emerson Park has a really exciting upgrade, and to Alder Keemer, who's heavily involved with that project, as well as I know John's been involved, President Johnson, there's at one point, Wayne, you were involved. There's been several involved from the Park Commission level, City Council level, community members, but there's going to be a playground installed this year is our goal. So essentially, the committee had talked to us a little earlier, probably, the Friends of Emerson Park talked about it probably about a month and a half ago, and said, hey, that some of the numbers are coming along, what can we try to do this fall? And where we're at in the process, I'll summarize it. If I miss something, please jump in. But we were able to work out with a playground vendor, and their lead times are also very challenging, but we were able to get one to agree to having it here by November 7th. In addition, we are working out right now with the same contractor that's done a lot of our grading work for the other playgrounds to try to get a number from them. We believe will come in where we need it to be, so we would try to get the earthwork done before that. As soon as they get the playground here, try to install it, and hopefully be able to cut a ribbon on it potentially, or have some announcements to it, in November. That's our goal. So let's hope that the beautiful fall colors stick around a long time and it's not too cold too soon, but it'll be really awesome to see. You probably, if you've driven by it, you'll see that the crew already cut the basketball court, half of it out, and kind of prepped the site. We did some pre-drilling to make sure that we wouldn't run into any building remnants or anything under the site. That all checked out great. So basically at this point, playground vendors guaranteed it with liquidated damages that they'd have it here by November 7th. So as long as we can get the ground scraped here in October, which we believe we can, that playground would go in, and then it's just a matter of concrete and restoration. So kudos to the Friends of Emerson Park. It should be really exciting. We're excited for the families to be able to enjoy that here real soon, and obviously we'll get the Park Commission down there once that's done too, so everybody can kind of see that up close. Did I miss any key points on that?
That's great. Yeah, we're planning to have a ceremonial groundbreaking Saturday, October 29th. So again, that's more ceremonial, just to celebrate the progress. So yeah.
Awesome. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention the Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan. We did go through the survey process, kind of the collection of information. We shattered Rattler's record for surveys taken. They set on a good survey in a community, and they do a lot of these. If they can get 600-700, they're in pretty good shape. We were over 1,400 in our community. So our community certainly cares, and it's great to see that. It took a little longer to tally up some of the survey results, which is why it hasn't come here yet. Just so you know what will happen with that process is when we get the first draft, I've seen components on it because I'm working with them as we add elements to it. When the first draft format comes out, I'll be emailing that to the board. And that way it'll allow you to put your eyes on it, if you want to offer comments, if you have the time to read it, so that by the time we get an actual draft here to the committee, it's not like you've had to, see it for 3 days, right? The idea there is, rather than breaking into a subcommittee, we'd like to just basically offer feedback and thoughts. What do you see? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you have questions on? And we'll just kind of have that as a working document, and then it'll come to the Park Commission ultimately to consider adoption, or offer, the community the opportunity to weigh in on it, and it'll work its way to the council. And our goal is to try to adopt that most likely in January, so it can be a 2023 to 28 plan. So we're on schedule. This is a very thorough document. Rattler's really doing a great job with it. It's by far going to be the most thorough outdoor rec plan we've had, and we have a lot in the hopper. So when you put it on paper and start to see what the next 5 years look like here, it's going to be an exciting time. We'll definitely be busy, but yeah, look forward to everybody's comments, and feel free to put as much time as you can into it. I also understand, though, and we realize that not everyone's going to be able to comb through a 200-page booklet. So 200 is probably an exaggeration, but there's quite a bit of information with some of the survey results. So that I would hope to have something to you in the month before November, but in November for sure that you'll see that email come to me. And then I'll just ask the Park Commission to respond back to me individually, so we don't have any quorum issues, and then we'll incorporate those things in before it comes here for a public discussion with everyone. So those are the main things. Busy couple of months, but it's exciting, and we have a couple great things to button up, and then we look forward to a great fall. So thanks, everybody.
Questions for Director Kramer on anything in his report? All right, we are down to the most important part of the meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Here. Glodowski, is there a second? Hall? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We stand in adjournment. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.